Warning. This podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. If you are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. You don't even want to know the state of my office right now. It is chaos. So not only did I leave my office in a bit of a state of chaos. Sorry, not sorry. If it hasn't been posted on YouTube yet, I scanned every single physical book in this office into a digital library app because I unfortunately will buy the same book twice when I'm out and about. If I haven't read it yet, if I've read it, I know, but sometimes those ones that are a little bit further down your TBR, you go, oh, that's so pretty. I definitely haven't read it. Doesn't mean I don't have it. So I've done that twice in 2025. And so before I left, because I knew I was going to be going to some great romance bookstores and events, I scanned every single book in this office into that app. Do you want to know how many books there were?
Ooh, I want to take a guess. I'm going to say 250?
That is so cute.
Cute. How bad? How rough was I off?
The actual total of books in this office before I left, let me preface that, before I left, and I actually didn't do any of the nonfiction books. I didn't do any of my reference books, just the fiction books. And it's not technically accurate. I'll explain. Was 562.
Oh, I was way off.
That's why I said it was so cute. You might be able to see, yeah, you can. In the back, there are some Post-its. Those are books that didn't scan. And some of it's because I have an ARC, it's an indie, it's a special edition that doesn't have a barcode, things of that nature, like my Chantal Tessieres don't have a barcode because they're her signing edition books. And then some of them just didn't scan, weirdly. So I do have to go back and double check and add everything with a Post-it. But it was helpful because it prevented me from buying the same book again at least 3 times. Honestly, might be one of the best things that I have done, especially because this year I'm really dedicated to building up my collection, and I'll get to why later. The first part of this episode, and you might, wait, I'm so sorry. I feel like our listeners are a little confused right now because that isn't Seffi's laugh in the background.
It's a man.
No. It's a man.
That's what you said last time I was on.
I did. I scared you. The last time I had Michael on, who is our editor, I started the episode with, oh my God, it's a man. And he thought that there was literally a man who had broken into his apartment. So no, but I just got back today, the day we are recording, because from this adventure where I went to Florida and I went to Georgia. I went to Florida for other reasons, but I went to the Steamy Lit bookstore, the original one in Deerfield. I know. It was just as magical as I thought it would be. If you've been following Steamy Lit on Instagram, just Mel has created an incredible space. Everything Mel has touched is a gift. It is such a gift. And I loved it. And always, if you're going to an indie bookstore, always ask for recommendations. Paula like walked me through the whole store, which is why that Labib app was incredible, because she would ask me, do I have something? And I go, I don't think so, but let me just check. Oh, I was wrong. No, I was wrong. I do have it. Or no, I wasn't wrong. I don't have it. Let me take that. Thank you. And
can you say, before we move on, can you say the name of the app for people listening? You kind of just dropped it in randomly. It's okay.
It's Labib. I will put a link in the show notes. This is not sponsored by them, though maybe it should be. And I just use the free version for my personal library. It's one that I think you can use at various levels. And I said, just this one. I wanted to be able to scan barcodes in with my phone. That was the
goal.
main
goal.
Which is cool. And I will put a video on the YouTube of me doing that. It's not a great video. You don't see me. You basically just see piles of books appear and get flipped over. And and it's time lapsed. Because this took hours. Anyway, so went to Florida, got to go to Steamy Lit bookstore, and then went to Love Y'all Book Fest in Atlanta. Not technically Atlanta, it was in Decatur, which I loved even better. It was great. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about some things that were really fun. I'm going to talk about some things that I learned. I'm going to talk about some stuff that's only going to be in the Substack membership space. So get jealous if you're not there yet. The first thing I'm going to say is I fucking love book cons. I do. And it's like all of your nerd comes out to play around other humans who feel the same way that you do. And I don't think there's anything I own more in this life. I got two things. This is from Books by Britain. Yes, I will link this in the show notes. Now, I had to get this. I'm trying not to let my lights like glow. It's this cute.
Perfect. I'm very, so cute.
I want an aesthetic shelf and I have too many books. If you think I only have 562 now, you are wrong. But you're so wrong. But like I want aesthetic things for my shelf.
That's so cute.
And that was one of them.
It's like a glass enclosed pile of books with a little cup on it.
I forgot. The thing that really caught me is this is my favorite Ali Hazelwood.
Are they all Ali Hazelwood books?
They're not none of the rest of them, but but these little things all have one book on the back of them.
Yeah.
And this one, there was a different pink one with a different book on the back, but this is my favorite Ali Hazelwood, so I wanted this one.
That's so cute.
And then, oh man, so I got this. And the reason I got it is because I had pretty much every single book on these shelves.
It's a tiny bookshelf with little books all over it.
Oh, that's right. Some of you are listening to this as an oral medium.
I was wondering, you were like looking at me like I'm describing it for those who can't see.
I appreciate it. It's a little bookcase and it's got a bunch of books. Some of them are spines out. Some of them are covers out. It's got wallpaper on the back of the bookcase. There's cute shelf decor with flowers and a little cup. And it has a little sign that says Love Y'all. And it's all books by authors that were attending Love Y'all. Oh my God. This is precious. This is an ARC. So I was able to get some ARCs, both just from my ticket and also from other things that I was able to go to. This is Lore of the Tides, which is the conclusion to the duology Lore of the Wilds, which I read in December and it was a 5-star read. 5 fucking stars. This doesn't come out until July. And I'm going to shout out Chris because Chris was so nice. She found this in the ARC pile first, and I saw it and I went, oh my gosh, Chris, you're going to die. Let me tell you, have you read Lord of the Wilds yet? Oh, let me tell you all about it. You're going to love it. It's amazing. And she just looked at me and went, please take it. I will not appreciate it. And we found her a really sweet rom-com that I had grabbed out of the ARC pile. But like, this is so precious, and because I have it early and I loved Lord of the Wild so much, but also just the kindness of book people. Oh my Lord. Just, I probably, if I had been in Chris's shoes and Jasmine was there, she can vouch for me, but I probably been like, cool, great. I'm going to go get the other one from my library. I would not have been so nice a human. And so I just want to thank Chris for giving it to me. And I like packed it special. It didn't go in my suitcase. It went in my carry-on, my backpack. So I knew it would be safe.
I love that. I love that.
Okay. So book cons in general, I think, number one, do not feel like you have to go to a book con. I've done things on book cons before. There are previous episodes. I will link what those episodes are in the show notes. Don't you worry. Book cons are an opportunity to be around a ton of bookish people, meet a bunch of authors that you love, learn and connect with new authors that maybe you've never heard of, haven't been on your radar, and just get a little bit more insight into what's happening in the bookish space. Now, Love Y'all is structured differently than other cons that I've been to. And it might be because it's smaller. It might be because of the intention behind this team. And this team is amazing. It's Vanya and Joe, Preet, and Hannah. They ran an incredible con, but there were panels all day long. So panels are typically anywhere between 3, I've seen 6. 6 is a lot of authors in a room on a stage with a given subject. So it might be second chance romance, or why YA is important, or sometimes depending on the con, it's influencers or people in the more businessy aspect of books, booksellers, book publishers, narrators, and what is it like in that. So you get a chance to be or witness these authors in discussion on specific topics.
When the authors are sitting there, are they do all their books have the similar thing with the subject? Do some of them are out of it, or no?
Well, so it depends.
That's so cool.
It depends. So a lot of these authors write very expansively. They write books in different subgenres with different tropes, with different things. And so usually every author has some sort of connection to whatever the subject of the panel is, but they might also do other things. And I got to see a couple authors speak more than once just because of what the panel I was going to was, or the ones that I chose to go were. So that was really interesting to hear them talk. And how did they speak about different things? And how did each panel was moderated by an author. So authors were the panelists and the moderators were also authors. I fucking want that job next year. I want that job. I kind of want to email them and be like,
that is right up your alley. That is what you need to do.
I might honestly like send them the bonus episode from this month. Don't worry, we'll talk about it later. And be like, hello, think of me for next year.
Girl, sell it. I think that's the way. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I primarily treated it as a panel experience, and it was amazing. It was just incredible. And I feel like I learned so much more about some of these authors and what they do and where they come from and aspects of this publishing world that maybe I didn't have an understanding of. I will apologize, and I know this is why I have Sephi, but I don't think I realized how big fanfic is.
Oh, yeah.
I have no concept of that. And I will say, like, I hope that anyone who listens has never felt like I demean fanfic as something that like isn't worthy or literature or whatever it is, because there's incredible talent out there. Anytime people make art and put it out into the world, like incredible, amazing, wonderful. I applaud you. But that there are a lot of authors, especially in romance, especially doing maybe newer things, that got started in fanfic because it's a place without judgment, because you're not on lists in some ways. It's not necessarily like the same kind of monetary, because Julie Soto was like, I used to get all these kudos and comments, and I don't do that and write in traditional publishing. I don't know what those are. I'm assuming like a like button, but
Yes.
thank you. It was really cool to talk about, though I did not realize that I ended up at two panels that talked about fanfic. And I should not have been there, because just my frame of reference, I'm there, I'm like learning, I'm taking notes. I'm like, what is that? Okay, well, a ship. What are these things? And all the ships and the things that people are talking about, I don't know. I don't watch, because I'm just not that cool. I've never felt less cool in my life than watching these fanfic conversations, and not everybody, but so many people in the room are screaming. And I like, those are definitely words. I am sure they were. I believe they had great meaning. You said them with passion. I have no frame of reference.
To that effect, though, what are some things that you did learn from those two? Because you asked a really good question about fanfic to a panel. There was like 5 on there.
Which one?
You asked. Remember. I can't. You asked if I remember. I'm not gonna keep it in there completely. It's a little tease, but you basically asked, when authors do they go back to fanfic? Yeah. How do they incorporate fanfic into their stuff? Yeah.
And I felt there was so much about the conversation around fanfic and the freedom to explore, and also that you will find your people in fanfic, that I wondered, in traditional publishing where things are maybe so rigid, or if they want to explore something new, do they ever use fanfic as a place to kind of, test their material, like a comic, like a stand-up comic will test new material in not lesser known, but smaller avenues where they're not going to smaller 100%. Places where they're not getting the biggest of crowds, where they can just see, like, how do people react to what I'm putting out in the world? Is this worth my time, or is this, maybe I should keep this in the drawer? And I love it was just a question that like was pulled from me as authors talked about it. And I know fanfic, and this is going to go into the bigger conversation that I do want to have afterwards. So part of the reason why we're teasing you so much with these panels is, number one, go to panels. If you're ever at a book con, go to the panels. Just do it. Even if there's only one author or it's a subject you like, but none of the authors, you will have so much fun. And I guarantee you will have a lot more books on your TBR. And then as Michael has kind of alluded, and I've alluded, I was able to ask 9 questions during the plethora of panels I went to over these 2 days. And part of it is I'm obnoxious and sit in the front 2 rows and I stare at people because I want to be your fucking favorite. I want you to see the joy on my face, and I want you to love me more than anyone else. I want deep, intense eye contact. But also, I love the opportunity to ask authors questions and to delve deeper into things. Now, the audio is shit because I took it on my phone because I couldn't have a full recording system in the middle of these panels. But all of those questions and the answers we've compiled into this month's bonus episode for the membership via Substack. So if you're interested in that, head on over to substack.jacereadsromance.com. The link, of course, will be in the show notes. And you can listen to me get answers from Ellie Hazelwood, Julie Soto, Amelie Howard, Julian Winters, Sonora Reyes. Who else did I ask?
The Prince of Palisades?
Julian Winters.
That's Julian Winters.
Julian Winters and Sonora Reyes.
Great conversation.
Thank you. Tease. That was the first one. First one. It was just an incredible opportunity, and I'm so grateful for it. that they kept calling on me. I feel like at some point someone was going to catch on and be like, ignore her. But they didn't.
Your questions were too good to be ignored. If they ignored you, they were disservicing themselves, Jace.
I had a friend. I made some friends. One time we both got she got called on, and then the moderator said, "This is our last question." She just handed me the mic because she's like, "My question would have been fun, but I know your question was going to be good."
Oh, that's awesome.
Again, book people are the best people. But anyway, what I want to talk about is not necessarily what my questions answered, but a theme that came up throughout this conference. And it was how important romance is, how under threat we are, and what can we do? So yeah, we're going to take a bit of a sharp turn into the current state of the US of A right now, which is, speeding towards fascism. Now, if you at any point wondered what my political affiliation is, it is far left. Far left. And I am terrified. If you read Project 2025, and even when they tried to not call it that, we know what it was, there is some language in there indicating an attack on romance. The language aims to classify any explicit material as illegal, potential child endangerment, implies that you could be put on sex offender lists for having it or providing it as a human, or really aimed at institutions like libraries and schools. Not that they have anything fucking sexually explicit in a school fucking library. Like, anyone who's told you that is lying. They work really hard. They get advanced degrees in how to provide age-appropriate material to school children. So fuck you. But it includes things like queer people getting a happily ever after, or people of color getting to tell their stories and not the whitewashed bullshit we're taught in the world. And in Oklahoma, there has already been legislation introduced to make any explicit content, specifically written word, illegal and a felony, to, I think, both create and distribute. I don't know about own yet, but that is part of the reason why I have chosen to financially commit to hoarding, obtaining stories. There's fear. There is legitimate fear in this industry, in this space. And it sounds so stupid. Why would they come for our romance books? Well, we're talking about a field that is primarily written for women, by women, that centers women's, especially now, centers women's autonomy and empowerment and pleasure. There is this sense of, what the fuck are we gonna do? And people who are just getting the opportunity to tell these stories of love and a happily ever after from marginalized communities. Yes, it's not diverse enough. I can tell you that Trad Pub is not diverse enough. Everyone can tell you that. But is it more diverse than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Yes, it's inching. It's slow. It's creeping. It feels like there's nothing slower on this goddamn earth than traditional publishing, but it is better than it was before. It's not anywhere close to where we want it to be, to where we need it to be, but it is getting there slowly. And what will this do to trad? What will this do to queer voices? What will this do to people of color? We don't know. And this might have been a question that I asked, and I feel like the answer was so important that I am sharing it with you all now because I heard it from more than one panel. Buy the fucking books or request them from your library. Post about them on social. Get intentional with what you're purchasing and reading and posting about. Because they need it more. They need it more. Amber Cordova needs you to talk about her book more. Vanessa Riley, who has been writing historical romance as a woman of color for decades, is being told by her publisher that people don't read historical romance anymore. Historical romance is the cornerstone of romance. It was the only game in town. And yeah, it's not the only game in town. And I love a vampire, no offense, more than I love a corset. It's shocking, I know, but I do. However, I still love a historical romance. I love a Duke. We all know there were only 28 and none of them are hot. We know it. We know it. That is not why we read them. We read them because they are exciting. I want Adi Dulac to tell me about the heiress from the Caribbean who is a woman of color and is being cheated out of her dowry and has to marry her Scottish friend who's a Duke. I want that story. I want Lisa Payne to tell me about the Scottish Highlander who's also Black and a cowboy. I downloaded her cowboy romance too because I loved Never Cross a Highlander. Loved it. I loved, and they exist. They exist and they are being told that they don't. And one of the questions that I wish I'd been able to ask, and if you're listening to this, put it in the comments. I truly wonder if the reason writers are being pushed from historical to fantasy, even if you're bringing to the forefront the social inequities that are happening, even if it's the exact same fucking thing, what fantasy allows us to do is not look too hard at the actions we as a society have taken. When you're reading a historical romance and they are putting out there the atrocities that have been committed against queer people, against people of color, that we as a nation, as a world, as a society have perpetrated and erased from the history we teach ourselves and our children, we can just go, nope, 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 nope. Oh my God, look at that fantasy world that did that to those people. That's terrible. We fucking did that. We did it. And if we're not looking at it from a historical lens, maybe it's more palatable from romance. Maybe if we're looking at it as a fantasy, we don't have to address the fact that it's our history and we need to do something about it. We did it. So that's my big soapbox on that. And it makes me uncomfortable and it makes me sad and I have to sit with it because that is part of the history of the world. And to bring it a little bit back to other shit that's happening in America right now, there's legislation that if your name doesn't match your birth certificate, you can't vote. And that affects mainly married women because in society, you're supposed to take your husband's name when you get married because you're now his property, of course. And then you won't be able to vote. It's great. It's so great. Okay, so what do we do? If you are able to pre-order books, this was one of the things that I was told was one of the most influential, especially in trad, because it tells that publisher people are excited about the book. Pre-order books if you can. Put them on hold at your library. If you use Libby, there is an option that says notify me. And if you click on it, it tells your library that you want it. And I don't believe the same thing works for Hoopla because Hoopla works with, they give you whatever inventory they have. But for Libby specifically, you can click on that, and whatever library system you use, they might have the same kind of thing for physical books too. But Libby, I know, just puts in their system every book that they can. So you can click on a book and go notify me, and it will tell your library that you've done that.
I know we've talked about Libby, we've talked about Hoopla. Another big one is called Canopy. All of those are connected to libraries. Canopy with a K. Kanopy.
Does Chicago Public Library have that?
I don't know. I have not looked into Canopy specifically for it, but I listen to another podcast, and librarians often call in and talk to the hosts on it, and they bring up those three are the main ones that they bring up constantly.
I don't know, but I will now have to look up Canopy because that's awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing, especially for marginalized authors, if you are not someone who typically reviews, review. And I thought it would be impactful to have them on something like Goodreads or Storygraph, and it is, but they really mentioned the booksellers, the selling websites like bookshop.org or Shmamazon. Don't buy the book from Shmamazon, but you can probably review it on Shmamazon, because that helps the publishers, the companies, yay capitalism, like get the message that these are books that are wanted and will make them money. The other thing that was talked about was the fact that trad is slow. Trad is slow. It takes 2 to 3 years from contract to book. So sometimes you have a manuscript and you query it, and then you still have to go through the editing process, and you have to go through that querying process. And if you have an agent, you have to get an agent, and then they have to submit it, and it has to be read. And even if you've had the fucking manuscript to begin with, then they have to edit it, and you have to, oh my God, what am I going to do with it? I saw Shelley Page, not at Love Y'all, at her single author event, that the book that became Brewed with Love started as a thriller, not a romance. She had been in a thriller anthology and queried this idea, I think, through that. And they said, yeah, but what if you made that thriller a romance? And ended up through multiple iterations with this YA sapphic romance brewed with love. I mean, it's also a mystery. It's like a mystery romance. But yeah, it started as a thriller. So it can be 2 to 3 years from contract to book. Because there's also, when are we going to release it? Who's on that date? Do we want to move it? Do we want to not move it? When are we going to market it? Blah, blah, blah. But this is where it comes. This is the thing that was made. And I don't necessarily want to out this person. Not out them. They're out. They're out. But they work for publishers in like a day job kind of way, not in publishing, but doing something else. And so they see both sides of it. What we've noticed, we as a society, is traditional publishers have been snapping up established indie authors and re-releasing books under their brand. And the theory that this person made, I think it's accurate, is that this is a way for traditional publishers to get into what is not even popular, but get up to date, be current faster. It's easier to grab that author who's doing really well and sign them for a 3-book deal after their first book came out or their second book came out, and get them with their established audience in their genre into your cohort. And now you've got someone who's doing that thing that people love, but you don't have, because who the fuck had dark romance as the trad pub bread and butter? Now,
yeah,
it's happening a lot with dark romance right now. And the other thing that so many authors kept saying, and these are all traditional authors. There were almost no independent authors. There were about 80 authors, and maybe I missed a few, but most of these panels and most of the people that I spoke to were all trad pub authors. And the thing they kept saying is innovation is happening in indie. People of color are already in indie. Queer humans are already in indie. All of it is already in indie. And trad pub is picking up those people from indie. So besides pre-ordering and supporting the cohort of authors of color, of queer humans that are already being published by trad, because we want to encourage that behavior, go support your indie author. There is a big debate right now about whether or not having KU supports Amazon. Honey, sweetie baby, KU is a fraction of Amazon. Is a fraction. But you know who it does support? The fucking indie author who wouldn't have a career without that. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. Don't get rid of your KU right now. Don't do it right now. What I want you to do is go to KU and fucking break the algorithm and find that queer story. Find that author of color. Find the queer author of color who's writing a kinky ass book. And you read it. And you think, what do I read next, KU? And then you read that, and you read that, and you share it. Because I want us to blow up all the indie humans who deserve a seat at the table. I want for trad to see that. That's where they're looking to innovate, by taking people who are already doing it. So why don't we choose who they're going to pick next? I've been reading A.H. Cunningham, a Black author who writes kinky as fuck books where some of the humans are also queer. I haven't read all of the books. I've only read Plie and A Turn in the Air, and I feel like I missed something. There are too many other people in the surrounding story where I'm like, I know that I missed you. There's no way that there's just an MMF poly couple, or maybe it's MFM, I'm not quite sure because I haven't read that book yet, but there's no way there's a poly couple of the sister of one of the friends in this group that didn't get their own book. There's no way. Am I wrong?
No, I get like all of a sudden these poly couples are jumping out at you.
You fucking love poly couples. Yeah, speaking of poly couples, Tati Richardson, TM Richardson. Yeah, The Oath, which I've heard the audiobook is great. I have a physical book. I have a special. It's one of the books that won't ever be. I have a special edition from Steamy Lit. Oh, but this was the book that this is my second precious.
I saw you post that on Instagram. That cover is so cool.
She's magic. Her artists are magic, and I love it. The only thing that I'm a little annoyed at, I'm sorry, Kimberly Lemming, I love you so much. I know I'm so weird when I meet you. It's because you're so cool.
The book. You just held up the cover to me.
It's her newest book. I got abducted by. I didn't know if you were going to keep this. So this is Kimberly Lemming's new book. I got abducted by aliens, and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. And she was able to sell it early at Love Y'all, and so I bought it on Saturday. I literally was one of the first people to register because my friend and I are weird like that. And I said, oh, I guess the bookstore's not open. And they went, oh yeah, bookstore's open. I ran around the whole bookstore to find it. And I went, I'm so sorry, this one's mine. Anyone else? I don't know how many copies you have, but this one's mine. I will be leaving with a copy right now. Thank you. And the only thing about this stunning cover, yes, this will be in the show notes. God damn it. There are going to be so many pictures in the show notes, and they look so weird on my blog space. It's okay. It's okay. We're all coming to terms with it. We're all okay. But the only thing that's annoying is this is an MFM romance, and there's only one alien with her on the cover. Ooh. I first thought she was going to give me a love triangle, and I was going to shit a brick because I'm over love triangles. But no, it's MFM, and
maybe that's why it's that way on the cover.
Because she wanted to tease me. She wanted me to be shocked by it. Yeah. Valid. Honestly valid. It's so do you see how much light green are on these tabs? Those are all the moments that I loved. I ran out of light green by the end of it. Hello. Here, wait. This is the perfect page. I just have to read this one quote. All right, that settles it. I've died and been reincarnated in some stupid anime. If there are any gods at all, please don't make this a full-blown why choose. Just keep... Sorry, there's a siren. Just keep it to us 3. Lord, you know I don't have the stamina.
That's beautiful.
I love her.
Lord, I don't have the stamina.
She's also just the tiniest of humans. I've met her twice, and I am shocked because I feel like someone who writes this much snark has got to be tall. And she's not actually boob height on me, but she's got to be like 5'2".
That's awesome.
Tiny human.
And rides a Harley.
Oh no, that's Amelie Howard.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll cut that out.
It's fine. But what am I saying? So that's it. Like so as we end this, sorry, Michael. Thank you, Michael. I want to remind all of you that you do have power, and it's the power of community. And if nothing else, this conference was incredibly healing because all of us are reeling. All of us. Everyone who believes and supports and champions romance, especially the romance shown at Love Y'all, which is diverse and loving of both people of different ethnicities and values and religions and gender identities and expressions, as well as sexual orientations, then you are reeling. And in community, we have power, and the power is by who we support. And it's hard because there are a lot of good books out there. A lot of good books written by white authors. Fuck, I read Deep End. I loved it. I loved Deep End. That book is getting weird conversation too, but like, get the fuck away from Allie. She also came from fanfic. You know, she could have gone weirder. And, but where we spend our money and whose voices we choose to champion makes a difference. I'm not going to say read what you're going to read, because I truly believe that you should be reading diversely intentionally. But when you're making roundups of things, my top favorite book partners, or here are some spicy quotes, or books that have hockey players, or whatever it is that you're doing, are you making sure to include authors of color, queer stories written by queer humans? Is it because is the reason why you're not thinking about them because you haven't read them? And then number one, change that. Is it because you're going for white authors first because they're popular? Yeah, you can throw a few popular names in the algorithm, but make sure they're not the only names. Make sure it's not the only voice. Make sure that when you're posting your roundup, your wrap-ups, your listicles, your whatevers, what books that you're pre-ordering, that you are promoting other authors, that you are promoting these stories. Fuck, get a KU account, get a Kobo account, and start to read the indie authors. If you feel like you're alone or you can't find the story that you were craving or that you identify with, it's out there in indie. It is. There is someone who looks like you and loves like you and fucks like you fuck, who is in indie right now making art for you. And you can find them. I promise you can find them and amplify their voices. Because there's got to be more than one. Honestly, if those fanfic panels taught me anything, it's that You will always find your audience, no matter how niche you think it is. If you come up with the craziest shit, you're like, no one will want to read that. Someone will want to read that. If you think you are the only one in the world who wants what you want, someone has written it. And it's in indie. Go find it. Because when we find the people already doing the thing in indie and we shout them from the rooftops, we tell trad what they're missing out on. We tell trad where they have gone wrong, and we inspire and push, shove, force trad to take bigger and faster leaps forward. How does one figure out what one wants? Especially with something like romance and relationships and sex and stories, is you become an avid consumer. And I'm going to make a silly reference. If you've ever been to a wedding as an adult, like not as a child, and you've walked around going, that's cool, that's so fucking dumb. I mean, even if you're single, you still look at a wedding and you're like, I want that. I don't want that. I want that. I don't want that. And, or like, I've never thought about it that way. Maybe that could work for me. It's the same with romance. The more that we consume, the more that we try out, the more we can understand what we enjoy and what we don't enjoy. Yeah, there are things that, like, you don't have to like every part of romance. You don't have to like A Second Chance. Someone on a panel, and they were so brave. They were so brave for saying this, and I respect them, even though I don't agree with them. They don't like enemies to lovers. They don't like it. My jaw was on the fucking floor. But you know what? Good for them. They've read enough enemies to lovers to know that they don't like it. Now, how do you know where to start? Think about what values are important to you as a human, especially right now. If it's, I just want to read what everyone else is reading. If you want to read what everyone else is reading, but you're not really sure, go listen to the All My Friends Are Reading podcast. They did, like, Wiley just did a romance series, a whole season on romance, and touched on a lot of the popular romance books of the last like 5 to 7-ish years. Some of them are a little bit older. And see which one tickles your fancy. Then notice, so if you have no idea, or if you're looking for something a little more niche, queer stories, Black love, Latinx, you can find, I wouldn't necessarily go to Goodreads, because Goodreads is an algorithm run by Amazon, which is going to defer you to whiteness. Sorry, it sucks. But I think that cons are a great place to start because they self-curate. Love Y'all, Steamy Lit, fuck, even Romance Con is some of the most diversity I've seen in a lineup in authors. And this is a weird thing. This might sound weird, but remember, I'm old. A lot of authors, if you're of a certain age, have found success by creating communities on Facebook. Fuck off if you think Facebook is dead. Millennials are keeping it alive. But also a lot of these cons have Facebook groups where they post updates and things and, you know, and resources, and authors are telling you what's coming up and what their new things are and their side. Just even if you're not going to the con, you can join the Facebook group. And even if you're not going to the con, you can absolutely join some of the chats in the Facebook group about various things. Now, most of them are con related, so you don't necessarily need the solo travelers chat if you're not going. But there are lots of things to learn and grow from. And if you are, I think Steamy Lit is always going to be my first. Go to that, go to the Facebook group, go to the page, go to their website. And if you're looking for kink, smut lovers is not as active on Facebook, but in general has really good resources for what they do, which is accurate kink in romance novels. And listen to some of my other books, other wrap-ups. You can always come. I don't necessarily want you to only come to me for recommendations for authors of color or queer stories, because I am not a person of color or a queer human, and I am just telling you what I've read. But if that's where your comfort level is right now, I respect it. And I will do my best to, especially on Instagram. I've been sharing a lot in my stories from other creators, because I don't know how that reposting works on TikTok. Like, I don't know if you see it. If I repost something on TikTok, do you see it? Do my followers see it? I don't know.
Your followers.
My followers see it. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Or it will go in people's algorithm as something you posted. So like,
okay, so maybe I should repost things. I will repost more things on TikTok too, so that you can follow along. Like Talia Cadet is one of my favorite creators on TikTok. She does a ton of Black love romance. She's in the DC area. Of course, Jess Literary Intersections, who was on the podcast over the summer, I think it was, is an incredible resource for just everything. She's so on the pulse of what's going on. And then Nia, who was actually at Love Y'all, does a little bit more fantasy than I do. She does more fantasy than typical romance, but I very much enjoy her vibe and how she speaks about romance, or she speaks about books in general. There is oh gosh, she does a lot of fantasy, and her name is Sarah. She talks about fantasy a lot. She talks about Sarah J. Maas a little too much for my taste, but she's a queer human. And every so often reminds her followers of that, and then they go, oh my, someone who doesn't know that she has a girlfriend comes out of the woodwork, and she goes, yeah, I'm a bisexual woman. Fuck off. Like, like and then there are people who do a little bit more YA, which maybe we'll have a whole thing about YA and how we need to save it as a genre, even though I don't want to read it.
Like your exact words were in the past episode was, I just want to see you fuck more.
It's true. And that's because I'm a grown-ass adult, but I recognize my privilege of a lot of it. I have a lot of privilege in a lot of ways. And one of the ways that really hit home in this time was that I did not lack for representation of who I was in the media. I'm a cis white woman. I unfortunately really like penises. I like them a lot. And regardless of all the other, how maybe we're gonna get vulnerable. I'm not Christian. And even though that is certainly not the norm in the media and wasn't in the 90s, certainly wasn't as much Christmas as there is now, but I had enough people in my life and in my circle and where I was that I never felt like who I was out of the question, or something to be hidden, or something to be shied away from or ashamed about. And that so many people don't have that. So many adults have a child in them that never got to see themselves as the hero, as worthy of love, or even represented in mainstream media in any capacity. And YA isn't just teaching current humans that they have value, and it is teaching humans struggling right now in a world that is telling them that they have no value, that they are going to be erased, and that they are inherently worthless. It teaches them that they have value and that they are worthy of love unconditionally, romantic and otherwise. but it is also healing the adults that have already grown up without that and internalized it and have maybe sought romance or relationships with a core, deep, hidden belief that they are unworthy because the world wouldn't show it to them. And that is so unfair. And I feel such rage about that. And so I don't necessarily want to read YA for myself. But I want it to exist, and it needs to exist for both the people who are looking at those characters as they are now and as it relates to them right now, and for the people who grew up with the message and already internalized it, because it is not true and we are changing it, and it is being changed. I don't know if that's how you wanted to end this with me sobbing.
No, I think it's beautiful. I think it needs to be said.
So, if I can get like one more person to read X's and O's and Prince of the Palisades and Cinderella is Dead, and if you have YAs that I should have on my shelf, if for no other reason than they need to be protected, let me know. It started off so happy and it ended so like heartbreakingly beautiful. But you know what, y'all? That's fucking life.
Amen.
So I hope I give you a podcast hangover and you can't listen to another episode until I come back next week. Like, I'm going to put you into a podcast slump, like a reading slump. Like, you finished a really good book and it's making you think and like feel the things. And the only thing that can make you feel better is to like do it again. You can listen to this episode again, but I really just want you to come back next week. As a reminder to everyone listening on podcasting platforms, we post the video version of this if you actually want to see me cry, weep real tears. That goes on, that gets posted Monday afternoon on the YouTube. Guess what it's called?
Before the end of day Monday.
Before the end of day. Sometime on Monday. On the YouTube, it's also called Jace Reads Romance because that's where you can find me pretty much everywhere. If you search Jace Reads Romance, that's where I am. And if I'm not there and I should be, let me know. I'll claim the username and probably never go on it. Sorry, Tome. I know you're great, but just it hasn't happened. Just reminding everyone, because it's less than a month old. Our Substack is still really new. You can be a free newsletter subscriber. We have a paid membership and the book club, which will be, hold on. We're in the book club where we will be reading, I have sentences, and the book club where we will be reading Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. We are doing that live on the internets. Well, you have to be a member to the book club first to get there. On March 20th, you can buy the pretty hardcover version or the paperback, like I have. I have the paperback. I was not seduced by the hardcover. Here's how to become an intentional reader. Do an audit of what you're reading. Make it live. It's great to look at past data, but also make sure that you're being really cognizant of what you're reading right now and what you're putting out there into the world, both in the what you're readings, but also in the roundups, in the listicles that you make. Search out conferences or people on the internet that have the same values as you. Follow along so that you can get their recommendations. Conferences that have the same values that you do a great job of self-curating what you're looking for. You might not love everything, but it's a great place to start because they're already doing the work for diversity, for authors, for stories that they view as worthwhile. They would not have a shit author at the event. They don't do it. They don't do it. Then double check that what you're reading in trad, if you're frustrated that you're not finding it yet, go to indie, primarily in the ebook space. You can look on Kindle, you can look on KU, you can look on Kobo, you can look through your library. And there are a few resources that I found if you're looking to own digital copies that I might post, like FreeBooksy, Red Feather Romance, and BookBub that post sales. So you can get ebooks for, $1 to $5, which is pretty inexpensive for an ebook if you're looking to own your collection. And remember, what you haven't yet seen in trad already exists in indie. Let's amplify those voices so that trad gets their shit together, picks up those authors, and then is suddenly leaps and bounds ahead. And we don't have to wait the 3 to 5 years. Realistically 10, but 3 to 5 years is my hopeful sense. If you have the money to spend on physical books from trad, pre-ordering from their authors of color, from their queer stories, tells the publishers that these books are in demand and that they should invest in these authors and these stories with their marketing dollars, with their time and their effort and future contracts. There are so many ways to get involved, to use your time, effort, and money to create change in this space. We have power and we can and will create the book community that we fucking deserve. Bye. Jace Reads Romance is a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Produced by Sephi, edited by Michael Achenbach. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. For show notes and more, head to www.jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow us on socials at Jace Reads Romance everywhere. For more exclusive content, visit us on Substack, where you'll find extended episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Have a question, story, or a book recommendation you know I'll love? Email Jace at jacereadsromance.com or call and leave a voicemail at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, this is Jace, holding space for you.